Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. In this lesson we're going to be creating miniature art, and I'm going to be doing it on a piece of watercolor paper, and 140-pound watercolor paper. If you don't have that, you can use 90-pound, but you'll need to put a few layers of gesso on there. As I'm using the materials, I'll go through all the products, but you'll have a supply list for easy reference. So I'm going to be using DecoArt Media Gesso, and I'm using my number 8 Bristle Bright, and I'm going to apply a layer of gesso. This will seal the paper, it will stiffen up the paper, make it more sturdy, and the best part about this is that when we put the paint on, the paint doesn't just get sucked into the paper, it sits on top of the gesso so it dries faster. Okay, simple as that. I batched these up. I don't just do one piece, and unless it's the big painting, but I do these in a large batch. And to save time, I have one prepared already. And let me just clean this up. And I'm getting down to the last bit of my baby wipes, so I'm having to squeeze them all, they're so wet. Alrighty. Let's add some color to this. And you can do this on any sized paper. I'm going to take some Cobalt Teal hue. I'm going to put it right on top of the card. You can use your finger for this if you want. But you don't want a perfect application. Let some white show through. If you use your finger, you can do that. You just want it smudgy. And the nice thing about working on a gesso piece is that it takes the texture of the gesso as well. You want your DNA in there? Pop your fingerprint in there. There's your DNA. Your identity. Okay. I want to take away a little bit of that blue. I can take the baby wipe, which is damp, and I can just blot that a little bit, just to take a little bit of that off. And this will dry fairly quickly. I'm just going to hit this with the heat gun. Doesn't take long at all because it was such a thin layer of gesso. And I'm going to get my paper, and I'm using the DecoArt, their new line of Decou-Page papers. I'm using arrows, and I'm using this one here. And I'm just going to have a little piece here like this. That's all I'm looking for, something like that. And ideally I want to do something on the back as well. So I can, let's do this. Actually, no, I'm not going to worry about the back. You can finish the back by just taking the paper and wrapping it around. I just don't want to waste time doing that because it's the same technique. But ideally, if you have the paper big enough, you'd wrap it around and you're going to do the back as well. Or you can actually just do something else with it. You can paint it or whatever. So I'm going to be using matte medium. And I'll apply the matte medium to the whole piece because it'll create a barrier layer. There's a transparent layer that allows more light to show through. And I'm just going to put that right there. And sometimes I don't have nowhere near enough of this. And what I should have done was I should have used my Decou-Page medium. Forgot to get it out. Ooh, this is just being uncooperative today. Uncooperative. There we go. I'm gonna wrap that around. You know what? Let's do this right. Let's do this right. And hopefully I was not off camera for the whole thing. Oh, I'm so sorry if I was. Here it goes up that way. And we'll just put the whole piece just like that. That's pretty straightforward, isn't it? And then we'll cut it. And I only have this one sheet left, so I'm really being frugal with it. There we go. So that's stuck on there really, really well. I'm going to cut it. Cut the edge. We're going to be finishing the edges, so you're not going to see this white. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the matte medium, apply another layer on top, and apply a layer on the bottom. The bottom one's not necessary. I'm going to anyways. Then I'm going to get my little pieces of crumpled wax paper, put that on there to dry, and when it's all dry, then I'll trim off the edges a little bit more, and then we'll come back and add some color and then add our stamp. So now we're going to add a little bit of color actually before we stamp. I'm going to take a little bit of translucent white. I'm going to take a little brush. I'm going to push this back a little bit. Not too much. Primarily on this side because this is where the butterfly stamp is going to go. I don't want the background to compete. And the actual sentiment is going to be here. Just layering and layering and layering. There we go. Gonna dry this for a second. There we are. All right. And I've got my butterfly stamp, and I also have these little random ones here. So I'm going to use this little thing here to put something in the corner, and it doesn't matter what stamp. These are just little accent pieces, and the butterfly stamp is just from Ranger. It was in a kit. I just love butterflies. We'll need a piece of scrap paper. We only need half the butterfly. And I want to make sure there's room for the quote, so I'm going to put the butterfly right there. And I think I smudged him. Did he? Nope, he's good. Just wipe that off. I need the... And I moved the camera so I won't get off the camera by mistake. And this one here, I'm going to put just the flourishes right there. Like that. That's it. That's all we need for the stamping. Put this aside. Now, I just used archival ink for this. Now you can make this any size you want. You can make this big, because you can see how flexible it is, because it doesn't matter what you use. You can stencil the butterfly if you want. And actually I am going to do a project, the same type of project on a bigger scale using a stencil. So that's that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stamp our little sentiment. And I got these microscopic little stamps in there from, I think, from Michael Studio G. And so you can use a stencil if you want. And the sentiment is going to be find your wings and fly. This is boring. I tell you right now, it is boring. Oh, that moved. That moved. If you have even a quote printed, that's fine. Print something off on your computer using your favorite font. For this particular case, the letters do not have to be exactly perfectly even. Whoopsie. Oh, this is like watching paint dry. Find your and I have it written down on a piece of paper on the side if I get distracted. Gee. I have done that a couple of times where I've actually spelt something wrong. This is getting annoying. I hate working with tiny little stamps like this, but these are the nicest ones that for this particular thing. Find your wings. And fly. There we go. God, thank God that's finished. Okay. So I'm going to heat set this just to dry it quickly. Doesn't take long. This has to be dry before we go on to the next step. Because if it's not, do a test on that. Yeah, because if it's not, it's gonna get ruined. Okay, let's finish the edges first. So I'm going to take English Red Oxide, which is an opaque paint. And I'm going to take a little stencil brush. And all I'm going to do is paint the edges very carefully. And then we're going to apply a nice super glossy finish to the piece. I want to make sure I get a good amount because we're going to be going over this with black. Let me just refinish this off. The brush I was going to use is in the water bucket. You cannot use a wet brush for this. It'll make a mess. Alrighty. Now I'm going to get a tiny liner brush, carbon black, tiny little brush, and I'm just going to be very sketchy and just go on the left side of the edging, not covering all the English red oxide, not covering it all, being very sketchy with my lines. And this is, what is this one? This is a number 0. This is actually a round, not a liner. There we go. Finishes that edge. You can make that border as big as you want. I want to make mine a little bit bigger. And if you also want to, you can go back with English red oxide again. Just to finish that up. All right. We have to make sure that that paint is dry. You can leave this the way it is. I'm going to be applying some liquid glass to this, and I'm going to be creating the edge first. And let that dry for just to set up for a couple of minutes. And what that'll do, that'll hold the rest on the inside. Now I have another video where I did this. I showed the whole process. This does take a long time. So I'll let that sit for a couple of minutes just to set up, and then we'll fill in the rest. So what I did, because I know what happened last time, is I had a hard time squeezing this out in the fine line, so I transferred it over to a much softer squeeze bottle just for my own use. Oh, look who's here. This is much easier. I hope she doesn't jump on the table. You do not want your pets, I'm going to mention specifically cats, to get this stuff on their paws. This stuff is hard to get off. It is soap and water cleanup, but have you ever tried washing a cat's paws with soap and water? I don't know about you, but my chaos. And also missed a step. Not a step per se, but I should have did this on my drying rack. I could just put it right on the rack. There we go. There we are. So now, where's that card? Palette knife would work as well. So what you want to do is you just want to slide it off the table. Slide it off the table and just put it somewhere to air dry for a day. And when we come back, I'll show you what it looks like. Voila! It's finished. I let it dry for about, this is about 18 hours is dried, and I'm feeling it, and it still feels pretty cold. So I'm going to let it sit for probably about another day or so. These things here, I have a special rack that Joe made for me. It's nothing special. It's just the pieces of wood with shelving, and I just put these on there and I just let them sit. You can never let them sit too long. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? The way the light hits that. So I created one before this because I was writing out the lesson, and that's this one here. You can tell it's the same series, but it's a different layout. The stamping is on a different side, the butterfly's in a different position. This I'm using a leaf, this I'm using little flowers, and you can tell the paper's the same. Even the back is a bit different. So imagine this, and I'm going to be creating this project. There's another ATC set that I did, and I kind of give a hint in that, and this one's easier to explain. Picture this. Picture 2 pieces of canvas, or let's say a wood panel, or whatever you want to use. So we'll just say canvas. 2 canvases side by side with the butterfly over the 2. So just like, well, almost like this, but it'll be 1 butterfly. Okay, 1 butterfly as a piece like that. So think of that being on your wall where you have something like this. And the beauty about this is that this whole thing is totally customizable to what you want. Okay, even the ATCs, they're fine, but the miniatures. But if you think of it as a canvas design, completely customizable. The color you can choose to an accent color that's in your home. So super simple. So super simple. So, and then for thickness, so this one here, I was relatively thin. You can see how thin that is. And this one here, a little bit thicker. See how much thicker that is? This feels like an epoxy sticker, but I love this. Now this one here, I can't really feel the butterfly through. This one I can, and I don't know if it's because it's too thick, and the alcohol ink maybe had the alcohol stamp maybe had a different reaction to the way the liquid glass went out. I don't know. All I know is I love it. But see how beautiful and translucent that is? It's gorgeous. So there we go. So I would love it if you gave this a try. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Email me a picture. I would love to see what you've done. Even better yet, post a picture in the Facebook group. So that would be wonderful. Alrighty, so I'm off to create another project. I really hope that you enjoy this. And until I see you next time, stay inspired.